unceded and the ancestral territory of the Sidley people. Tonight, I am very happy to introduce Sage Sidley. Sidley is a former graduate of UBC Okanagan's BFA program and is a current regular part-time faculty member at the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design University, where she also completed her Master's of Fine and Digital Arts. Sidley works with ideas of place and technology in the form of expanded drawing. I'm just sorry, adding one more person. Expanded drawing to explore the fluctuant roles of the observer and observed. She has attended artist residencies in Berlin, Germany, and Inverness and Halifax in Canada. She has held solo and group exhibitions in numerous public galleries throughout Southwestern B.C. and select galleries in Nova Scotia.
Thank you so much, Megan, for the introduction, and thank you, Vernon Public Art Gallery, for virtually having me today to speak about my work. I would like to begin by acknowledging the lands in which we are situated and the many stewards and land protectors across many territories to whom we owe a debt and a responsibility to. Today, I'm joining from my grandmother's house, located in Takaranto, also known as Toronto, situated in the treaty lands and territories of the Mississaugas, the Credit First Nations, as well as the territories of the Haudenosaunee, the Wendake, Nawintseo, and the Mississauga. These lands are covered by Treaty 13 and the Dish with One Spoon Agreement, which is a model for sharing the lands and resources. Through space we are engaging with, through kind of thinking about the space that we are engaging with and the places in which we move through the world, these histories and treaties speak to ongoing violence towards Indigenous peoples. When thinking about place and borders and the use of the land, this includes technology and location-based data collection, as well as the environmental systems we are a part of. Everything is connected, and how we treat these lands and exist on these lands is impacted by everything. A helpful resource, oops, I forgot to change my slide. Oh, my slide didn't load. I had a map here, which I can share later after the presentation, just showing where I am currently located, and kind of the treaties and the territories that I spoke of. And the resource that I used was nativeland.ca, which is a great resource of knowing where you are and where you're situated and the treaties that you're a part of. So this exhibition is all related to how we think about where we are and the kind of the systems that we engage in. It's a product of my MFA thesis research, as Megan mentioned, at NSCAD University, as well as the residency I participated in at the Blue Gallery, the Blue Building Gallery in Halifax, the ITP camp residency at NYU, and ongoing studio research. Connected to trying to digest the overlapping micro and macro environmental systems, such as weather and insect ecology, along with technology, infrastructures, data collection, and based on location. As kind of pre-mentioned, all of that we'll kind of go into this talk today. Hopefully, maybe it will become more clear, maybe a little bit less clear, of kind of the ideas that I'm kind of think about and digest and maybe propose back to you. So in this talk, when I'm speaking about, when I'm kind of using the phrase technology, I'm specifically referring to smartphones, social media applications, mapping applications such as Google Maps, Apple Maps, and Street View. So it's kind of the technology I'm specifically thinking of, so more digital technology and more phone-based applications. And when I'm referring to data collection, I'm speaking about data collected on individuals whose social media, through the use of social media applications, such as the big five tech giants, Amazon, Facebook, or now Meta, Microsoft, Google, and Apple. And the forms of data could be that are collected could be how many clicks, how long you viewed something, the time, the date, the location, and in connection to what was viewed. And of course, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, but that's kind of what when I'm saying data collection, what I'm thinking of or referring to. Because both technology and data collection are very broad, loose terms. So when I'm using them, that's what I'm thinking of or referring to. So my work is so I thought I'd start today briefly talking about these ideas and where they began, and then going specifically into the exhibition and giving you kind of like an insider perspective on what I was thinking, the process, and yeah, kind of the process and ideas behind some of the work in the show. And then I believe at the end of the talk, we'll kind of open up to questions. So if there's anything I missed or phrases or ideas that we can kind of pull out together, we can do that in the end. So I thought it'd be fun to start with my first exhibition at Vernon Public Art Gallery in 2018. This was like in the front window space gallery. The work was called Planes of View, where I had my cell phone set up on a tripod facing out the window, recording viewers as they walk by. And I projected that onto the wall and then recorded as it was happening for 4 hours, everything I could of that street view. So passerbyers, if it was raining or snowing, kind of what the buildings look like each day, and the time was dependent on whether the camera glitched. It would pause maybe because the Wi-Fi went out, then I'd have more time to draw said person walking, or if they're walking really quickly. So kind of beginning to think about data collection in the form of drawing. So when you observe or record something, kind of relating that to how our image is often captured every day through many unknown, I guess, devices, and kind of relating that to drawing and being captured. We're also kind of thinking about the power dynamics of portraiture, where the artist is kind of taking your image, and where the subject is kind of at the demise of the artist. So kind of juggling with those ideas while playing with time and place, and really beginning to layer or trying to articulate that layering of time and space. So the next work I'm going to show you, was a little bit after, but kind of still thinking about that kind of style of layering or overlaying. This is, if you can see, it's actually in the exhibition right now, a figure here. So it's the same figure layered over and over using lithography in the printing press, where this is actually a figure from Google Street View. So again, kind of thinking about who's looking at who and how is it being captured. So on Google Street View, anyone kind of, actually you can even just do it on your phone, can decide to do a 360 capture of the place that you're in, and you can upload that onto Google Maps. Why I kind of began looking at Google Street View is because I was really interested in who was uploading photos, where were they, and how that kind of affected our understanding of using Google Maps, where Google Maps kind of appears to be this very passive complete capture of our world and mapping of our world, but that really deciding when and what time you capture a place, or what neighborhoods you're going into, what time you're going into them, when you decide to capture them, that all kind of articulates our understanding of those places. So in this case, I kind of I would go into Google Street View and then turn the camera down to see if I could see who was actually taking the photo. So in this case, I'm kind of like flipping or maybe exposing who is taking some of those photos, and then kind of playing with this repeated printing matter. So kind of digesting, kind of thinking about who's taking the images and how and where. So I call this guy Google Guy, and he comes up in a few, you'll see him kind of in the exhibition as well. I just thought it was kind of interesting going from this visually to this. I find that they're quite related. So as I was kind of digesting these ideas, this is from the residency I did at the Berlin Art Institute, where I was beginning to kind of stray away from drawing and trying to think more about how we move and navigate through space and the different kind of webs or networks that we are a part of. This is kind of where I began to think more about insects as another invisible form or system that we are part of as we move and navigate every day. Where I was kind of thinking about these globs of data being collected on us, how this maybe kind of like leaching or swarming, but then also thinking about the environmental impacts of kind of our co-inhabitants within these environments. So these are kind of just initial works thinking about these ideas. Where looking back on them now, I think I can really see how they visually relate as I was still kind of chewing out those ideas. I like to share this because I think it's really funny. This is something I first made in my MFA, trying to really articulate what I was thinking about. So this it's also fun to look back on it. I can almost think of this as like a sketch or word map, where I believe this is just like a map drawing that I quickly Google searched. This idea of planes, or like invisible planes layered in space. This kind of female flaneur, which is often, the flaneur who is maybe more privileged upper class, who's able to roam the streets and stroll the streets to experience it as a detached observer. But what does like a online flaneur look like? It's kind of another, like, who's observing who, what's their perspective. But I think this is a kind of funny image. So someone walking through the streets, and then I have the leech here. I was really attracted to this image because the leech looks like the same size as a phone. So like a leech, almost like a phone, taking your data from you. I've updated, show anyways. Oh no, my image again. Not sure why. I'm gonna try reloading. Can anyone, Oh, my updated, I updated this collage to make more sense, but I'm not sure why it's not loading. Do you think I can just stop sharing and then restart? I'm just gonna see if we'll do a quick. Quick intermission. Okay, I'm gonna try one more time. Okay, you can kind of see it here. Let's just see. Okay. Okay, you can see it when it's not, can you see it when it's not full screen? Okay.
Yeah, we see it there.
Like, this is really important for me to show you. Okay, so I've updated this silly collage. But to kind of help, so here updated the map. We're kind of thinking about these kind of borders and lines and maps that really dictate how we move through space. Topographical maps and weather maps, so these kind of other lines systems, if I kind of think about this layering of space. Still the privileged female flaneur here, and then our relationships to kind of other environments, or are thinking about technology and insects. I like how this image, it's almost like she was walking and then got a fly on her nose. So it looks like the same person maybe. So yeah, our relationship to technology, our environment, insects, and kind of how we move through spaces. So this is my updated mind map, so to speak, of how to kind of think through these spaces. So that kind of brings us to the steps of their scroll installation. With this, as I'm going to kind of show you the works, I'll give you more context and background on the works as well, and show you some older works that relates as well. So as I kind of was still thinking about these things, I began kind of again straying away from drawing and thinking more of videos, and how videos could maybe lend more to what I was thinking of. These as we kind of move through these digital and physical environments at the same time. So I have many videos of kind of these insects. This one's just on pavement, this one's on a hike, where they're just kind of moving or crawling. All the videos are only 7 seconds long, and that is to kind of on Instagram, you used to only be able to do 7 seconds until it would cut off. So I kind of wanted to play with that, where we really only have the 7-second loop. And then I was just kind of making these all in that Instagram story sharing format, where I was using GIFs that I would find, either using the hashtags technology, digital, computer, text, so trying to use these really broad kind of technology words. And then I've also used my own. So these are all little GIFs that I have created, kind of playing with moving through space. Here's another Google guy where I've inverted the gaze. Just this little yellow guy moving on the Google Maps. This is a moth I 3D scan, which I'll show you more of those later. And then just kind of, so putting these GIFs onto these kind of smaller scale environments that we're also kind of a part of. So while you're walking on the trail, there's all these little invisible systems happening that we're a part of and affecting. And then in the show, you'll see not only those videos, but this video as well, of a slug that I've made quite giant on the TV screen, slowly kind of moving by. It's a banana slug that I believe I recorded on Bowen Island in Vancouver. And the 3D printed finger, this 3D printed finger I found, you can buy people's 3D models, and someone scanned their finger and I bought the model for $7 and then printed it. I just thought it was really interesting thinking about how I mean, of course, this is maybe a separate conversation, thinking about bodies being captured and put online. But I was really thinking about where now we kind of navigate with our fingers as we move through the world. The theorist, oh goodness, if I can say this right in this moment, Byung Chan, I'll get that correct. I'll double check at the end of the presentation. I should have had that ready. Was talking about that, where we're kind of moving, where we're now navigating with our fingers on our devices. So that's the case of the finger there. So yeah, kind of continuing on my journey here. I was also looking into thinking of my sketchbook as a way of kind of excavating or collecting or notes, trying to kind of make sense of these ideas I was juggling. So visually and visually relating, and then conceptually kind of relating these ideas. So I was really looking as well for physical elements of kind of physical elements of technology or digital infrastructure, where technology is kind of thought of as this, like the cloud is not connected to anything, but really the physical aspect of large-scale data centers located around the world, that there is a physicality to them, that we mine for them, and the cloud actually is a place. And so kind of looking for physical infrastructures of technology, screen captures from Google Street View, especially ones where there's kind of like a bird's eye perspective, my own photographs, and then of course images of insects and bugs. So this is kind of an example. I have folders and folders of these, probably, I don't even want to know how many photos and screenshots, and but I kind of look at this as part of my research practice, or my sketchbook, or form of research, that the sketchbook extends to your tabs and your screenshots. That's all part of collecting and kind of making sense of things. So this idea of collecting many images is created these, I call them drawings here, these digital drawings. I'm going to show you some close-ups of them. So these digital drawings are created from this idea of taking my own photos and just kind of collecting images, as well as images from my studio, and then beginning to layer and kind of play with them to create overlapping, maybe kind of confusing narratives, or trying to kind of relate these ideas. So here's a few here. I also used where I began to think about looking for drawings or mark making that was already existing in my environment. So these marks are actually from feet on in the bus. I don't know if you know when you climb to the back of the bus and sometimes it's a little bit elevated and there's that plastic wall. So that's from foot marks on the plastic wall. So I was kind of looking for mark making in these cases. I don't think I have any. No, these ones are just from my studio, playing around. These are actually little plasticine bugs that I've created, and then kind of like copying and pasting and recontextualizing it. What does it look like this, and what does it look like here? So kind of playing with images that way. But yeah, so, and also looking for kind of drawings. Okay, I'm just going to escape so you can see this. Looking for drawings kind of in my environment as well. So, tracks in the snow, or marks that have been made in the sidewalk, kind of looking at mark making in my environment. So found drawings, so to speak, are in some of these. And then in other ones, it's this case here. This is actually just a projection. I was projecting something in my studio, and so kind of trying to filter everything into one another, where it's happening all at once. Let me go back to see if the slideshow will work again. Okay, cool. So here's an example, more of these digital sketches, where I'm kind of combining everything that I'm gathering and then regurgitating it into these collages. So this one here, you can see those plasticine insects again, the kind of drag and drop image from Google Maps. What else is in here? I actually can't remember some of these things. I made probably around 200 of them. I'm just trying to kind of filter through these images and begin layering them and playing with them that way. And I kind of like how they look like they're made on Photoshop. Like I'm not hiding the tool that I use to create them, but kind of maybe collaborating, we could say. Why in this image as well, so in the exhibition, if you look to the right, I also have, these are 3D scans of beetles. So I'm just going to kind of talk about the 3D insect scans that I was also doing. So these are just from dead bugs I was finding on the sidewalk, or in my like home space. So if I found kind of, or in my studio. So just if I saw a dead bug in my studio or in my home or while walking to school, I would collect it and do a 3D scan of it. So yeah, I kind of liked how these turned out as, I kind of like to think of them as the technology doing portraits of these insects. So the bugs being found as like my cohabitants in the spaces I am in, and then kind of putting them through this scan where maybe the scan is maybe taking like a portrait or data from the insect and then putting it into this 3D grid. I really like thinking about the grid through many different lenses, where in drawing it's used for finding proportions, to kind of create that plane where you're taking something three-dimensional and flattening it to 2D. The grid used in maps and mapping, to divide and separate space, in the positives and negative ways that maps are used. As I don't think I've talked about all the the positive negatives of mapping, but we can kind of go into that later as well. But yeah, grids, kind of this idea, another power dynamic to, why are we mapping out land, is mainly used for property and control, thinking about my land acknowledgement in the beginning. But yeah, so the grids, kind of this idea of like control or power, or to like render something or collect data on something, so that the insects are put into this kind of 3D grid. Let's just look at some more of these insects. So this one kind of turned out kind of cool, this image of a wasp. I was trying all these different ways because the insects are so small for the 3D scanner to be able to see them, which was also kind of interesting to think about. So this one, I think I had to put talc or baby powder on it in order for, if it's too shiny, sometimes it's hard for the scanner to pick up. So that's kind of why it looks like that. And here's another moth. And these are just in reference to, I only had one insect scan in the show, but just in reference to what the background on that. And here's just some more images of me again, kind of looking through these images and these ideas. These are kind of some digital collages I've been working on in my studio pre-installation. So yeah, kind of thinking of the overlapping of space. Here's a physical collage. So these were kind of pre-installation. This is actually a data center. And then some cutouts of some of those images I've been collecting. And then this is actually a wasp mold that I did, where I was trying to like mold, make molds of the wasps as well. So this idea of like replicating, copying, repeating, kind of playing with that idea as we do that often digitally so often. So then what does it mean when you do that physically and then digitally, and all the different modes of replicating or recreating? Yeah, so that's kind of to give you insight on those last two collage slides, to give you insight on how this kind of came to be. So there you can see the grid again. You can see the layering of some of those images I've collected that I kind of then printed off. And then my own drawings, kind of scraps drawings, thinking of these things, and then the videos as well. So kind of trying to create multiple layers. Yeah, trying to create multiple layers and different versions and of kind of thinking through these ideas. Just another image of the show. So here, these lines here were actually created from a topical graphical map of Vernon that I kind of added to the show. And then we have our housefly, a tick, some grids. There's another data center. Another data center. I didn't really spread them out. Some webs, a spider. It's kind of some. So I guess I haven't mentioned yet as well, kind of thinking about what's our relationship to insects and technology, and that often those terms and that we use to talk about technology refer to insects. So thinking about the swarm, a bug, the web, if a room's being bugged, drones, yeah, kind of just how that we use a lot of terminology like buzzwords to kind of talk about technology that relate to the insect. And that I think when I'm trying to understand the use of big data, it's similar to thinking about how that I can't really fathom the amount of data. I also can't fathom the amount of insects, and I think both appear intellectually superior at moments to humanity. So as well, so in the exhibition, these are the two drawings that I created during the Blue Gallery residency. And then I completed a third for the Step, Slither, and Scroll show. Again, kind of trying to think about the different networks and infrastructures that we are a part of and navigate through. So you'll see these works in the show. So there's like a screenshot. This is of a park in Halifax, and a few Ethernet cords and power lines. I forget what this is called. Like a cover that we usually use to cover wires. A data center, folks walking from a bird's eye view, and a weather network lines. If you look really closely, you'll see marks of grass, kind of really zoomed in and blurry. And then so these works, my first kind of iteration of this installation was at the Interaxis Gallery in Toronto. where I was kind of thinking about, okay, how I want to move these drawings, make them a little bit more chaotic, show a little bit more layering, hopefully make it a little bit more overwhelming, and begin combining these collage elements. And then that kind of helped in creating this show as well. So there's the third panel that I created for this show. And there are the other two panels. As well as in the ITP camp, I created, a 3D model of a tick. So here's just a screenshot of it on Blender, which is like a 3D modeling program. I just did this by like looking at a image of a tick and then trying to model it. I know there's probably easier ways of doing it, but I kind of wanted to make my own model of a tick in thinking about in Nova Scotia, there's because of climate change, there's more and more ticks. So kind of thinking about how insects relate to our understanding as well of how the environment is changing. It also makes me think of the pine beetle in BC. I was also hoping to do a pine beetle model, but I ran out of time. But this tick, if any of you have done this yet, let's see if my slideshow will work again. Cool. This tick, I created an AR, augmented reality. So if you scan the QR code right here and you place it on the tick, then the 3D tick will appear. So it's kind of, again, thinking about, okay, how can we create more alternative levels of space? So I think that's where I'm kind of hoping to go more with my practice, is beginning adding more AR elements. Is this my last? Okay. And my last slide here is just to reference Lucas Glenn wrote a lovely essay about my work, and he spoke a lot about my website called Proximity Studies, which I created for my thesis, where you'll kind of see a breakdown of all the ideas that I've just kind of basically touched on them in this talk. This is many of my face looking at you, whereas kind of thinking about who's looking at who, and whether you're being recorded or not. So I would just kind of record myself until I hopefully forgot I was recording myself, and then having this footage of your image being recorded. But then you must submit to enter the website. But we can, of course, I think we are out of time to talk about that more, but yeah, you're welcome to check out. There's the proximity studies, my email, and then my Instagram. And I think I also have, they're on this page as well. And that's all. So thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to hearing some of your questions if you have any.
Thank you, Sage. Sorry, I'm trying to start my video, but go ahead. If anyone has a question, pop on or write it in the chat, and I'd be happy to say it. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
I have a question. You can hear me okay?
Hi.
Okay. Hi. Thank you so much, Sage, for this really interesting presentation of your work and all of the things that go through your head, and then through your hands and through your computer. I'm really curious about your image selection. So you have all of these images and you collage them into these sketches, as you call them. But I'm curious, what is your process for finding them, for using them? Do you filter through certain images over others? Is there anything that you kind of avoid as a flaneur yourself, and go through all those and collecting those images? I'm just curious, if we want to use the word, like, curatorial process of using these images.
Hi, yeah, great question. Thanks, Hans. I do the kind of the same process of of where I just go through the kind of like hashtags or my like buzz terms. So I'll just search technology, networks, webs. I have like a whole list of kind of digital connected, and I usually I go through open commerce or open source. So then the images are free for me to use. For the more specific ones, like the insects, I am usually looking for kind of like one where I can see the whole insect versus or I'm kind of looking for, I guess, how I curate the insects is sometimes I'll have like one image in mind of like a swarm of where I kind of want to see the insects, I guess, around their hive or something, where I guess I can see lots of information. And then I think how my bias, or maybe my bias as a flaneur is I have a record of the images I've had before. So I guess often I'll kind of look for images that relate to one another. So for example, like, can we go back to this one? This is an image of, if you can see this one here, it's on, oh goodness, I can't think of it now. SketchUp, it's on SketchUp, where they have like all the people. I don't know if you know or familiar with SketchUp, but this is like all the people on SketchUp. I really like how SketchUp, thinking of like the XY planes as like a drafts person, but it kind of looks like a hive. So even here, this kind of scattering of people walking in this digital world, and this kind of looks like this screen grab from when I would just kind of go on Google Street View and like move around and see what images would come up. But yeah, these kind of look similar. Oh, I don't have any hive images up, but I think subconsciously I am looking for images that look similar. But I guess how I begin searching is through those terms. And then I kind of let myself go down rabbit holes as well. I'm just looking here. Definitely rabbit holes when I spend hours and hours on Google Street View, kind of just looking through images. But I guess how I finally capture them, I actually don't have other than probably my own like bias of this looks like this, where if I find myself interested in it, but I guess I don't have like a specific formula as to how I pick them aside from the search terms. Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you covered this. I was 15 minutes late. Apologies for that. But I'm curious, for those of us who are familiar with your earlier work, which was portraiture and sculpture, how do you see this, I guess not the transition of it into this sort of digital and more interconnected installation, but I'm curious, like, do you see these perhaps as sculptures or as portraits of yourself? What is your relationship to that sort of practice with this project, or if there's even one at all?
Yeah. I would say they're definitely connected. I think by just drawing portraits, thinking kind of went from, I was drawing portraits of people, and then I had that one show in the Alternator Gallery where I did the portrait of my neighbor, where I drew the outside of their house. So I think that's where my thinking kind of switched of beginning to think of my role as an artist, kind of capturing or trying to represent someone, where there's kind of two parts of it, where there's a really intimacy of it, of taking this information and recording them. There's also an act of honoring someone by taking their portrait or showing importance, but there can also be this power dynamic of how I decide to represent that person, or what I decide to capture or take from that person or represent them. And I think that those ideas kind of led me down thinking about these ideas of looking and who's looking at who or capturing who. And I really relate, I think my own, I guess, how can I say this? My own anxieties about data collection and surveillance and the climate crisis kind of filtered through this lens of portraiture and how can I word this? How one's being captured or I don't know if represented in this installation makes sense, because it's not really talking about representation. But I think this idea of yeah, I guess that's how those ideas translated, I guess.
The word that comes
is
to mind is rendering, like how you render someone.
rendering.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah. Thank you. I hope I answered that okay. Yeah, it's kind of, I'm definitely looking at yeah, these systems through the lens of drawing, and portraiture is definitely always kind of in the background, but yeah, rendering is a better term than representing. But yeah, I think they're all related, but it is quite interesting to see this work feels so much different than maybe my initial work, which is nice. I'm glad. I feel like I've grown a lot since then, and hopefully keep growing from here.
Sage,
Anybody else?
sorry. Sage, I have a quick question, or more of an observation that maybe you can expand on a little bit. You mentioned the word I think you mentioned the word chaotic when you talked about the residency show, right? And I must say, when I walked into the gallery on opening night, remembering you before you left BC, and I guess it was chaotic, right? There's a lot to look at there. We see the former Sage that we knew, way back in whatever year that was, with the drawing works on paper and the hand of the artist, but there's a lot of layers there. So I'm thinking that you said that you were hoping you wanted to make it more chaotic, but for someone to approach it, just walking off the street, is very chaotic, not in a bad way by any means, but it was very overwhelming, which is why I had to go back a few more times to see the exhibition. So, but so you were very successful on that point.
Thank you, Wanda. Thanks. Yeah, I'm like, I should have added more. So I'm glad it was chaotic. Yeah, I guess kind of.
Yeah, Amber and I've had many conversations about it since. So, and just the whole, I mean, I wasn't privy to the process of it being installed, but I know a little bit of the backstory and how that all happened too. And that's also a very interesting process and conversation to the exhibition as well. And I know the viewer doesn't get to see that, but I find that very interesting too. I don't know how you would incorporate that. I don't know how people would know about that, but it's, for those of us who know people who were there, it's kind of an interesting conversation too.
Thank you. Oh, I think is there a chat?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. If everyone's done with questions, last call for questions. Sorry, guys, my video will not turn on again. I'm not sure why. But I just want to say one more time, thank you so much, Sage. That was amazing. A great inner look into the exhibition. I learned some stuff myself. So yeah, I just want to say thanks again for taking the time to come out here and do that talk. And this will be up on our website shortly. So yeah, we can share it with people that may not have been able to come tonight. And thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Hans and Wanda, for coming. Nice to see you both. Thanks,
All
Megan.
right. Yeah, thank you guys. Okay, I'm going to end the thing now.